right, guys, welcome back to another video. So the last week or so, there has been this just absurd conversation that somehow continuously comes back into the gaming industry when it comes to Xbox. And that is Xbox going to become a fully third-party publishing company, getting rid of their console and simply just putting out their games onto other platforms, PC, Nintendo, and PlayStation? It all stemmed from Tim Stewart. He was talking at a conference and said that they want to see their games on as many devices as possible, which would include Nintendo and PlayStation if they would allow those games to be on there. The reality of the situation is this is absolutely no different than anything Xbox has been saying since the launch of the Xbox Series X and S, and even maybe a bit before that. And when he's talking about games being on PlayStation and Nintendo, there's already games that are Xbox first-party games like Minecraft and Call of Duty on those platforms, so that's what he is referring to. But as we know, Phil Spencer has said numerous times that Xbox, they want to have their games where Game Pass is, and really there are no plans to have their other big first-party games or new IPs, games that are coming out in the future that aren't legacy games on PlayStation or on the Nintendo Switch. It's going to be games that are legacy games. Now, there is an interview here with Phil Spencer and Jez Corden from Windows Central. And they talk about Xbox, talk about a bunch of stuff. They talk about the hardware, they talk about the consoles. And I'm going to read through it because there's a lot of interesting information here that, I mean, things we've kind of already heard, but Phil Spencer talking about it now and reiterating it at a time where you've seen all of these narratives, especially from the PlayStation side, from the PlayStation fanboys, almost seeming like they are just hoping at the end of the day that Xbox will release their games onto PlayStation because they know that Xbox has an absolutely incredible catalog of games coming up into the future and going forward with the amount of studios and the amount of IPs that they have. So let's go through it. Let's go through some of the stuff that Phil Spencer talked about. So it says here, Microsoft Gaming CEO and Xbox Phil Spencer is currently at CCXP 2023, presenting alongside other major entertainment companies at one of Brazil's biggest comics, movies, and gaming conventions. One of the things with Brazil, I talked about it in my video yesterday, was the price of the Xbox Series S. It sucks that they kind of are dancing around for the consumers in Brazil as to why the Series S price has increased. I mean, you can take a pretty educated guess. You look at the economics there, you look at the currency, that's probably one of the reasons, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be reducing the price, which sucks. It says Spencer's attendance at the show caps off one of the busiest years for Xbox team in years, potentially as the team jetted all over the world to answer regulators on its massive acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Spencer & Co. also ran events in LA before the summer, attended Gamescom in Germany, spoke on stage at BlizzCon 2023 in Anaheim. Spencer even appeared at the Final Fantasy Fan Festival as a part of a renewed partnership with Square Enix, and we know what happened during that fan festival where it was announced that Final Fantasy 14 was finally coming over to Xbox, and it really does seem like they did renew that partnership, renew that relationship, and going forward, probably going to see less games missing the Xbox platform. It says this kind of work schedule might have been the death of me, but Spencer was infectiously brimming with energy, fully fired up during my interview with him yesterday. The Xbox platform is under constant scrutiny from every angle. I don't know if that's a shot about the media and the so-called Xbox tax that everybody is talking about. It says here, part of it is because of how differently Microsoft does things, but part of it is definitely self-inflicted. Microsoft is known for confusing messaging and creating a perception of inconsistent commitments, and some of that confusing messaging just happened again this past week because of Tim Stewart, him coming out and having people absurdly talking about Xbox going third party. And I tweeted out, those people aren't serious. The only people that are thinking and saying that Xbox is going third party are people that are looking for engagement, they're trolling, or literally have been paying zero attention to what's been happening with Xbox throughout the years. It says this perhaps accentuates the difficulty of running what has become arguably the most diverse gaming portfolio in the history of the industry, a Tencent-like mobile gaming division, a traditional PlayStation-like console gaming department, an expanding PC gaming footprint, and new paradigms like cloud gaming and gaming subscription services. How does Microsoft manage all of these diverse and occasionally conflicting interests? And what does the future of Xbox look like? We spoke to Phil Spencer to get the answers to some of these questions as we close out 2023 and move into what is looking like a bright 2024 for the Microsoft gaming operation. Now, we're starting off right here with a bang where talking about Game Pass coming to other platforms as well as Xbox consoles and the hardware side of Xbox. It says here, I asked Phil Spencer about Xbox CFO Tim Stewart's recent comments regarding Xbox Game Pass. Stewart, in a presentation with Wells Fargo, said that Microsoft's aim was to bring Xbox Game Pass to any screen that can play games, including Nintendo and PlayStation. Many Xbox fans took that to indicate that Microsoft is preparing for an industry where Xbox hardware no longer exists. And I don't know if that's actually true, how many Xbox fans took it that way, or if it was the narratives being spinned that way, and it made it seem, it just started the conversation, which made it seem like Xbox fans were thinking that. But you got to sit back and got to think about it logically. It makes no sense in any world for Xbox to stop making their Xbox consoles, at least right now and for the foreseeable future. They have millions and millions of people installed into the console, which is their core fan base. That's a gateway to Xbox Game Pass. Cutting that off would make no sense. And it's also the best way for them to make as much money as they can off of all of their consumers, because they are locked in there to the Microsoft ecosystem, the Xbox ecosystem, the Xbox store, making purchases directly through the Xbox store. If you're getting people to access Xbox on PC or on another platform, you're going to lose their attention at some point to the competition. But when they're on the Xbox console, you're not losing their attention to the competitors while they're using that device. So they are going to continue to make Xbox consoles, and next generation, potentially the generation after that, who knows how longer the industry at all is going to continue to make consoles. But as long as there are consoles, Xbox will still be in that game. Here's what Phil says. He says, I'll start by saying we have no plans to bring Game Pass to PlayStation or to Nintendo. It's not in our plans. And it's not in their plans, probably because PlayStation or Nintendo right now don't want that service on their platform. But I'm sure if PlayStation and Nintendo said, yeah, sure, you can put Game Pass on there, bring over Xbox customers who have to sign into their Xbox account to get access to Xbox Game Pass, I'm sure Xbox would come up with a way to make that happen. It says, but I think you hit on the right point of what it means to own an Xbox. The thing I want you to be focused on is how do we continue to innovate for people who've made the commitment to our hardware platform, and how do we continue to make sure they feel great about their investment in what we've built. I'm obviously going to make my own point of view on our hardware, but I think our hardware teams did a great job with the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S this generation, giving value and performance in the hardware line. When I think about the investments in things like Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming, cross-play and cross-save and ID at Xbox, all of these things, I want us to continue to innovate so people on our console feel like we're making investments in console that matches their commitment they're making to us. So he says it right there. They're going to continue to invest in the consoles. They're going to continue to innovate for the consoles. And he wants the people on the consoles to feel like they are customers that Xbox cares about. You could argue at some points throughout this generation, especially in 2022, the release of Redfall in 2023, Xbox didn't make their core fan base on the consoles feel like they really cared about them, but they have continuously try to improve upon that. And I would say even from the launch of this generation, things like he's talked about with the cross saves, with the backwards compatibility and the cross play and all that stuff, that has made the investment to console a better investment than previous Xbox generations. I mean, just backwards compatibility right now with the Xbox Series X was still one of my favorite features. I hope they would open up that program again, but having all generations of Xbox accessible with one box is awesome to see. So hopefully he's a man of his word here, and they continue to make those investments and they continue to innovate and bring new features to the console like they have been doing. It just show that they still care about the console. But again, he's very clear here. The console is not going anywhere. He says here, Game Pass was one of the things that over the last 5 years we built and we continue to grow. It's on PC, it's on cloud. It's an important part of the Xbox console identity. And I think it will continue to be that. And we will continue to look at future ways for us to innovate across our game portfolio and platform. So no indication here that the console is going away, which if you've been paying attention at all to Xbox's strategy, you wouldn't have ever thought that the console was going to be going away. It says here, on the subject of innovation, I asked Spencer what the innovation might look like for Xbox hardware in the future. We've seen the rise of PC gaming handhelds like Steam Deck and the Asus ROG Ally. We've seen Microsoft experiment with things like Xbox Keystone Cloud Gaming Console, which sadly never launched. I asked Spencer if Microsoft has a plan for the innovation he mentioned and to describe what innovations might look like. And here is what Phil says. He says, we absolutely do. Just last month, we elevated Sarah Bond to be the president of Xbox. The hardware team is in her organization. The platform and services teams are in her organization. We made that organizational move specifically to ensure we had unified focus for our innovation roadmap across hardware and services. That includes the developer platform for Xbox consoles as well. That's about innovation we're doing within our teams, but we'll have more to talk about in terms of what we're doing in the hardware space and the service space. There's a lot of great work for us to do, and we're always listening. Now, the next hardware you could almost bet is going to be that Series X digital, but we'll see what else they have in store. Like if there's going to be handhelds or something else they want to do to jump in and take on other ways for people to be able to play games. You look at the handheld PCs right now with the ROG Ally, with the Legion Go, with the Steam Deck, specifically the ones that come with Windows built in. But a lot of these devices are essentially for people in the Xbox ecosystem, Xbox Game Pass devices, because you can install Game Pass on there and it plays all the games great. So I wouldn't be surprised at some point in the future if they do end up making their own hardware for the handheld. But for them business wise, you can see what they've been trying to do right now is just get all within all of the other companies who are making handhelds, get the marketing in there and get people into Xbox Game Pass. Now he continues here and says, on cloud gaming, one thing that has been interesting, you've watched us. Early on, we talked about Xbox Cloud as a way to get onto mobile gaming, and globally, there are a lot of people who play cloud gaming on mobile today. But in a place like the US, the way people use cloud primarily is on Xbox consoles. That is an interesting thing. I personally haven't really used cloud on my console very much. I've only ever really used it on the browser, on my PC, or on my phone. But I guess from the statistics they have, most people are using cloud on the Xbox consoles. Maybe that's on the Xbox One. Who knows? But that's where they're using it. It says they use it to look at games and to browse games that they might want to download to play through Xbox Game Pass. I mean, that's a great way to use it. Or even purchase outright. That sparked innovations that we didn't plan. When we watch what consumers are doing and listen to the feedback that they're giving us, we think about as other things we can do with Xbox Cloud and for the Xbox console experience. There's a roadmap of those things coming as well. So that's really cool to see that there's going to be a hardware roadmap of what is to come. He says there's a hardware roadmap, there's a service roadmap, and maybe there's even a roadmap for improvements to Xbox achievements, which I know is something that you and many others care about. And you could probably take a guess is going to be similar to the Platinum Trophy on PlayStation, something to recognize when someone has gotten all the achievements, but maybe there'll be even more that's in the works. He says we need to make sure we're exposing roadmaps to our customers to keep them excited. We know that our customers want to know that as Xbox continues to grow, that we still have a commitment to them. We want our Xbox core customers that have been with us all along to feel respected. And then when he's talking about core customers, the people that have been with them all along are the people who played on the OG Xbox, the 360, the Xbox One, and now the Xbox Series X and S. And if you think they're going to abandon those people, you're out of your mind. Now, what I love here is the whole roadmap thing, because the one thing in 2023 that you can say without a doubt is that Xbox's roadmap is far brighter than the competition right now, than PlayStation. We have no idea what PlayStation's roadmap is. They don't have one. But he's talking here about even giving roadmaps for things like hardware, which I think would be great, getting people to start thinking about what is to come so that they want to stay within the ecosystem. Same thing with the roadmap for services, telling people that, hey, if you sign up now, you're going to get access to these things that we're innovating and creating in the future. So jump in now, play all of the games, and then have a seamless transition to the new stuff. So that's super cool to see that he's thinking about providing roadmaps for that. Now, they go on here. He talks about gaming handhelds, and Jez here is asking, I noted the growth of the Asus ROG Ally devices like Lenovo Legion Go, which are bringing PC Game Pass and Steam games natively in portable scenarios broadly for the first time outside of some really expensive alternatives in previous years. We talked about Xbox Play Anywhere, which lets you play Xbox console games on your PC with cross save and cross entitlement. I referenced the fact that the Xbox app on Windows 11 recently gained a compact mode designed for handhelds, and also that Microsoft's broader roadmap looks like adapting Windows 11 for this emerging device category. And here's what Phil says: I appreciate the mention of the Xbox app and the work Ashley McKissick and the team put together with the launch with compact mode to make it more usable on those devices. One of the things that I think was needed for a long time, so happy it's here. It says, I'm traveling right now. I have my Lenovo Legion Go with me, which is fantastic. I think about those handheld PCs, almost extensions of my Xbox consoles. We've been pushing for cross-play, cross-save, cross-progression for so long to see when I pick up a game that my progress on my console shows up on the handheld in a native way. It's not just cloud streaming, and I can play on the airplane and or play when I'm disconnected. I think that's vitally important to where we're trying to go. I think a lot about Xbox product entitlement, and we have Xbox Play Anywhere, which a lot of people forget about these features because they're just seamless now. But one of the best features on Xbox Play Anywhere, cloud saves, being able to pick up your game no matter what device you're on and just taking off from where you ended. Xbox Play Anywhere has been a long-term part of our strategy, though I don't think we've made as much progress as maybe we could have over the years that it's been out. But as I see these handheld PCs come along, I think things like Playing Anywhere and my ability to keep my games library with me and allowing me to play those on different devices, including cloud streams at some point. We're looking at the ability to allow you to stream the games that you own. Something we've heard about. Hopefully this does make it out its way soon. But if you buy games in the Xbox ecosystem from their store, you should be able to stream a large amount of them, something like what they have with NVIDIA GeForce Now, where you'll be able to stream the games you purchased on your PC library. So hopefully Xbox does get to that soon, and it's just a smart move because it'll encourage people to want to choose to buy games via the Xbox store because they know they'll be able to play it on any device via streaming or natively. Now, they talk about Xbox games in Xbox Cloud Gaming, the Xbox Family Plan, and the benefits for the customers or for the developers. So here's what he says about all of this type of stuff. We're in Brazil right now, and right now I have a lot of cloud in my head. Brazil is such a big Xbox Cloud Gaming market for us and a big Game Pass market for us. Brazil is our second biggest PC Game Pass market right now. We did our partnership with Samsung app for Samsung TVs, and this has been our biggest year for people using Xbox Game Pass on TV. We're seeing a growing use of cloud in Latin America, but also globally. We had a pause on Xbox Cloud hardware deployment, which led to queue times around Starfield's launch. We've begun to start the deploying more blades again to meet the growing demand. We're also looking about what it means to stream PC games. We think that's an important part of our future in that space. I'm very bullish on where we can go with cloud, but it doesn't diminish the local runtime experience that we want to have on Xbox consoles and Windows PC. Every one of those games people want to stream. People are also going to want to play locally. We have to build the tools for developers in order to build both. Good to hear, because the internet just isn't strong enough around the world yet to be able to rely mainly on cloud gaming. I still barely use cloud gaming. I always want to be able to have the ability to play locally, so hopefully they continue with that. They say these are the things that where our gamers are embracing different devices to play their library of games, to take their gaming experience with them. I want Xbox to be a brand that shows up on our Xbox app, but also while making sure our games are compatible with Steam Deck, ROG Ally, Legion Go, and while making sure they are great on our Xbox console lineup. Yes, I think it does mean that our focus is more broad than it has been. We're significantly bigger than when Xbox started 20 years ago. It's our job to keep up with all that. Then he talks about the Xbox Family Plan. And he said, a lot of people were thinking the Family Plan just wasn't ever going to come out, but it looks like it is. He says, yeah, there is a roadmap for the Xbox Family Plan. We put it in the market to learn. It's important for us and for everybody to understand that Game Pass is mainly driven by our partners' content. Yes, we put our first party games in a day and date, and I think that's an important part of our equation, but we also have to continue to build a service that works for creators heading into Xbox Game Pass as well. So we do some tests, we look at what happens in the market, we share that data with our partners. So it sounds like they're waiting to get more data and get feedback from the partners before launching the Family Plan into more regions. They did launch it in a couple of regions, collecting that data, and then we'll see if they do bring it out into their bigger places that where Xbox is bigger, like in North America. It says we need to come up with a value proposition for creators and for players to make it a win-win, and we've been able to do that with how Game Pass is structured. We'll continue to look at ways to bring value to more customers while continuing to make a great service for creators. Now, next part he talks about is Activision Blizzard, dormant franchises, and the roadmap for tapping into nostalgic IP. And then asks, why was Xbox able to revive old niche games like Age of Empires and Killer Instinct when Activision didn't seem to want to do so? How are they going to be able to do all this stuff now? And here's what Phil says: I probably can't do the compare and contrast that well since I wasn't in the rooms at Activision when they were making some of the decisions about what to focus on. I can speak to us. It goes back to some of our language on Game Pass in the very beginning. We have a service that is financially viable. So that's a huge thing that people still debate. And here's Phil reiterating it, that Game Pass is financially viable, specifically saying we have a service that is financially viable, meaning it makes money in Game Pass. So Game Pass makes money, whether people want to believe it or not. He says we've put a lot of money into the market, over $1 billion a year supporting third-party games coming into Game Pass. What we see in Game Pass is a service that supports all kinds of games, from the biggest games to the unknown indie games that you didn't know you would love until you played it. I've experienced that multiple times, and I'm sure a lot of people out there have as well. He says if you're an individual publisher, you really have to think about how to get everybody playing my game. I think a lot of the publishers are naturally drawn to making games that are big hit games and as big as possible. We want to do that as well, of course, but because we have a platform and we have a subscription service, having people play more and stay engaged on the platform, frankly, regardless of the type of games they're playing, is a very viable part of our strategy. And it's one of my favorite parts about Xbox and Game Pass is just the amount of different styles of games that they have within their service, they have within Game Pass, and you can see here why they're able to do that. He says when you look at things we've done over the past 12 months, if you look at things like Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, long-term investments in games like Grounded, all of these games have had real success for us in our subscription and in our platform. The diversity of business models allows us to invest in different kinds of content and still have financial success with that content. When we look at the back catalog of games from Bethesda, we get really excited. We look at the back catalog of games from Activision and Blizzard, we get really excited about the things we can do. Something I think a lot of fans here are hoping that they truly go out there and jump into some of the great IPs that Activision just hasn't worked on, because all they really been focusing on is Call of Duty, and get people who want to make these games. I'm sure there are a lot of people within the teams at Xbox that would take a look at the IPs that Activision Blizzard have and get excited about the future of making new versions of them. He says here, it's early days, so we need to be talking to the teams that are fully staffed and working on things already. It's not like, hey, there's a spare team that you can just go and put on something. You need to make sure those teams have passion for what they want to go work on. I will say that the diversity in business models that we have in Microsoft Gaming really lets us support different kinds of games, different sizes of games, and not every game we build has to be the kind of game that takes up all your time. Great to hear. As someone who has less and less time these days to play games, I don't always want a 100-hour experience. I'm cool with games like Hi-Fi Rush, that to me was one of the best games to release in 2023, and it was just so perfect in length and in size and everything like that, and everything they put into that game. So very good to see that. And then finally, Jez asks about games that potentially could eventually be revived or even cross to new platforms, like World of Warcraft, StarCraft's Heroes of the Storm. And here is what Phil says. You did a good job laying out some of the examples from the past. Thinking about Age of Empires, we're on the 10th anniversary edition of Killer Instinct, which is another nice example to think about. There has to be passion in the teams behind the projects. That doesn't mean that the team has to be the original team every time. I'm not one, and maybe this is just my approach. I'm not one to come in and take a franchise from a team and remove them from the discussion or development process on how something new gets built. I think the original creators, the culture, frankly, some of the lessons we've learned for past experiences here are very important. You've seen from our history that we haven't touched every franchise that people will love us to touch. Banjo fans, I hear you. So finally, they recognize the fact that people want Banjo. I want to see that game come back more than anything. He hears them. I guess there just isn't passion right now for a team that wants to go out and make it. That's kind of what it sounds like when he says how they figure out who's going to be making some of these games. He says, but it is true that when we find the right team and the right opportunity, I love going back to revisit stories and characters that we've seen previously. In the case of Blizzard games specifically, really what I want to do is work with Blizzard's leadership to see where they have passion. I say all this, but I'm not at all suggesting that Blizzard doesn't have passion for reviving franchises too. I know that from my visits to the team, they absolutely have the passion in this area. There's a lot of excitement for possibilities that we can all do together, but also I want our fans and customers to know that I don't bring up games just to tease to no end. If people have watched how we've teased things in the past, there's usually some kind of reconciliation of those hints later on. So there you go. Keep your eyes open for all the stuff that Phil's going to be teasing, because that means that there's a chance that these games are going to be coming out. Finishes it off and says, I'm not one to try to lead people on. It might not happen on the timeline that people would love, but usually when I tease, there's something there. So man, that's great to see. I'm definitely going to be watching him. We see all the stuff on his shelf. We see the shirts he wears, and we'll see if there are any teases coming up, especially at the Game Awards, because Xbox will be there. But very insightful, very good interview here with Windows Central and just Jez Corden and Phil Spencer, giving us more info basically on what Xbox is thinking about and their direction going forward. I don't think there's anything earth-shattering here that we didn't know. But if you were worried about console for some reason or another, thinking it was going to go away because of all of the social media outrage or absurdities that have been happening, that I think it just doesn't make any sense, or you were wondering if a Game Pass is profitable still, all of those questions are answered in this interview. But for me, the most exciting thing is they truly want to look into the back catalog and bring out some older IPs. They have to find the teams that have time and have the passion to do it. But let me know what you think about this interview with Phil Spencer. I will end the video there, guys. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.